the Chief Justice of the Israeli Supreme Court has done things that a Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court could never do, including politicking, including lobbying against the current government and their judicial reforms. Can you imagine? So my brilliant friend Arthur Ferguson took a look at some Israeli law. Section 284 under the penal law prescribes that it is possible to convict a civil servant in Israel for the offense of breach of allegiance should it be proven that he, in this case she, had committed an act of breach of allegiance or fraud when serving in office, and this even where such an act had not been deemed an offense if it had been committed against an individual. A civil servant committing, while serving in office, an act of fraud or breach of allegiance, compromising the public, even where such an act not constitute an offense had it been committed against an individual, is expected to be sentenced to 3 years imprisonment. Pursuant to this section, I'll explain it in a minute, breach of allegiance may be any action taken by a civil servant in conflict of interest. Any action taken by a civil servant in conflict of interest. Any action. So basically, even where such had not constituted a criminal offense, had it been committed by a private person, when a civil servant carries out actions that may compromise the public trust, he, or in this case she, may be charged with serious offenses of fraud and breach of allegiance. The criminal prohibition on breach of allegiance is intended to maintain the protected values that protect the image of public service, maintaining integrity and fair and honest conduct, as well as protection of the public interest. This is a very broad penal law, is it not? Very broad. Now, I'm sure that most lawyers in Israel will be loath to say anything publicly about this, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be said, so I am. If the Chief Justice, if she is in possible violation of this criminal penal statute or law by lobbying to oppose the elected government at the same time that she's ruling on its cases, and the result of her efforts would be to protect her own power and that of her colleagues, then it seems to me, as an observer, then she should at least be investigated by a person with independent authority to determine whether to bring charges against her. But it seems to me that this is at least relatively straightforward. I mean, when you look at the breadth of the laws, the ambiguities, the nebulous nature of the terms that were used to bring charges against Prime Minister Netanyahu, about which Arthur and I have talked about in the past, well, this would seem to be more straightforward than any of that nonsense. I mean, here she is sitting as the Chief Justice. Cases are being assigned to her colleagues that challenge the very composition of an actions by this court, and she's taking a position in which she is condemning it or lobbying against it behind the scenes or working against it. So it seems to me what she has done does in fact demand a criminal probe. At least that's my view. I mean, this is not right. A Chief Justice is not supposed to conduct herself this way. And yet, in my view, she did.